Abuse on social media is something all of us face. Women in particular are the target of sexually explicit, often violent posts, but more often than not, it's difficult to take action. However, an interesting precedent has now been set in the UAE, where an employer sacked an Indian citizen for using sexually abusive language in a personal message that was sent to journalist Rana Ayub on Facebook. The question is whether Indian employers would also act similarly and whether India is doing enough to tackle online abuse. Well, Rana Ayub joins us on the program tonight from Mumbai. We also have Swati Chaturvedi in the studio with us, the author of I Am a Troll, someone who's also filed police complaints against those who have harassed and abused her online. Amit Sibal, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, is here with us. Shubrasa, assistant editor of the India Foundation Journal, is with us tonight, and Shaina NC of the BJP joins us this evening. Rana, let me ask you first, how did it reach this point where, the employer actually asked this man to leave? I mean, was it your complaint or somebody else who drew their attention to these messages that you were getting?
Well, I get these messages on a routine basis. I mean, the only thing is most of them are anonymous handles. But this time I saw this guy, who had posted his personal picture with his wife. He also posted the address of his employer on his Facebook. So I took a screenshot of the abusive message that he had posted, and also a screenshot of his profile, and posted it on Twitter saying that I want to name and shame this person because this has become routine. And the moment I did that, there were a few people on social media, especially UAE, who said that they would want to go to the UAE office of National Paints, where this person was employed with. They went there. This guy was summoned, Binsi Lal was summoned by the HR, and he confessed to having sent lewd messages, not just to me, but apparently he is a serial offender. He's been sending pornographic material to many women on social media. So I think it was really, it's very encouraging that the HR immediately sacked him on grounds of outraging a woman's modesty, and they terminated his services. They have deported him back to India, and he's now in India. Now to see where does the Indian government take this.
Well, I find it really interesting that the employer has chosen to act in this case. The question, though, Swati, is, and you filed police complaints as well. Has anything happened after that?
No, Nidhi. In fact, in my case, when Twitter gave them the IP address, which essentially means that they knew who it was, even then the police say they know who it is. I even deposed before a magistrate, which means I cannot withdraw the complaint. But the police say they know who it is, but they couldn't act. So, we're learning from UAE, which is, I don't know how to take it. I hope Binsi Lal doesn't get a hero's welcome when he returns.
But therefore, you don't ever see, forget the government, do you ever see Indian companies acting like if somebody was to complain to an employer that this is what their employee was doing? Because there's a distinction there.
Exactly. I've got this in my book as well, because I discovered this one person who's followed by Narendra Modi, who works at a multinational company. He was also tagged on Twitter, but I don't think the company has acted either. So you're absolutely right. There is no action as far as the company is concerned in India.
Well, Shubrasa, you're on Twitter as well. You're online as well. Do you welcome this move by this company in the UAE? Do you think it sets an important precedent? Do you think that if governments can't act, if the police is reluctant, as it often is in India, or its hands are tied for whatever reason, that employers should take it upon themselves if they get complaints?
Thank you, Nidhi. Thanks for inviting me to the show. And at the outset, let me congratulate Rana Ayub for being successful in sort of not only drawing attention to this hate culture, but also getting justice on it. Definitely, I don't think any individual would sort of take a position and say that no, this should not have been done. But I take this platform to urge and not request Rana Ayub to take up the case of Tehseen Poonawala also, who has not been brought to justice, and we know what kind of nonsense he posted on Twitter against our HRD minister. I would also like her to take cases of Ram Gopal Verma and Niromani Sen Deka, who not just abused people on social media, but in fact went, like ballistic, even in public platforms, in denouncing leaders and leaders of high repute. I wish if Rana could also take up issues like women like us, for example, and it's very interesting and ironical that I'm sharing this panel with Swati Chaturvedi, who has blocked me on Twitter for asking a basic question, which was Manipur elections, and she tweeted on Manipur elections, and I was working in Manipur that time, and I merely requested her to engage with me on a debate as to what she has written on Manipur in the last 20 years of her career. And I don't know, Nidhi, what to answer to this question, especially, let me complete please, especially in the case where trolling and abusing has sort of taken a very different and a sort of very wide-ranging ranging definition, where if you disagree with somebody who does not agree to your views, it somehow you get categorized as a troll, and that's very, very unfortunate.
No, I agree with you on that, because it's not about
if it
people
makes
who
sense.
disagree with you or
Nidhi, I just want to
criticize you.
clarify one thing here.
I think Rana, we're just trying to fix your audio. Just give me a second. I think, Sharasta, the point is that it's when it becomes abusive. And I think one of the big concerns is that, you know, many of these abusive handles are also followed by the Prime Minister. And should they be? Because does that encourage those abusive handles? And you're also right, it's not something that's one particular ideology. It does happen across other party platforms as well, where if you say something, you can often face a barrage of abuse, as women in particular. You know, that they face it. But do you think that someone like the PM shouldn't be following handles like this to send a message that this is wrong?
I'm extremely glad that you posed that question, Nidhi. Let me answer the question in a couple of points, and please allow me to finish. I would request the other panelists also. See, we say terrorism has no religion, but somehow today online trolls have come to have a religious identity, you know, a political identity. That's very, very sad. I would definitely love to comment on it if I knew that all the abusers on social media are quote-unquote belonging to a particular party, but I don't think so. Being a political consultant also myself, I would like to tell you, Nidhi, that there are so many fake handles, you know, floating around in social media, which might be from a political opponent who just tries to, who is just trying to, you know, be goofy around you. So how do I know if a fake handle is actually a political conspiracy? Is there a way to know that? On the point of the Prime Minister or any other you know, person responsible in office following such quote-unquote troll handles, we need to understand one thing, Nidhi, that intellectually this country has not been a very equitable state. You know, ideally, in a world where there is an equitable, just, comprehensively loyal to all points of view and balanced, number one, media, number two, academia, and number three, civil society, I think this would have been a very ideal proposition that, you know, most of the panelists would propose. Even I would propose that. But unfortunately, we are not living in an ideal world. But people like us have had the luxury of having education in Delhi universities and having that kind of an articulation. But people, no, Nidhi, please let me complete, because this is a very, very relevant point.
I'll come back to you, because I just want to get Shaina and Amit Sibal as well. I'll come back to you. But Shaina, you know, I understand what you're saying.
Just one point.
Okay, quickly.
Just one point. Please do not block me right now. Please do not block me right now.
You're not being blocked. You've had enough chance to speak. Everything is not a conspiracy.
But a very genuine concern.
No. I'm just trying to ask Shaina. Shaina, the question is, though, I understand what Sharasta is trying to say. But having said that, you know, again, I come to this point of, you know, whether the PM should be following handles that are openly, you know, abusing women online or other people online, or threatening.
Death threats,
exactly.
Communal incitement.
Also, you know, you had this Maneka Gandhi's suggestion to have a cyber cell to deal with trolls and online abuse. You know, there was an email address that was set up as well. We really don't know if there's been any follow through on that or not. And, you know, the point is the issue taken seriously enough in India? Online abuse of any kind. Shaina.
I think, to tell you very honestly, social media is a double-edged sword. I mean, you either, as Mr. Jaitley says, ignore it or digest it. But I think that's simplifying the argument. We must understand that when it comes to women, and if there is any kind of abuse to women, there is ample opportunity to lodge complaints. Every police station has a cybercrime cell where you can register cyber cases. I have personally monitored quite a few, and we have followed up to logical conclusion. I'm sure you'll have the argument to say that you are in the government, that's why, but that is not really the reason. There are lots of people who work on helplines and lots of women who have been victimized, who have been able to bring their cases to the logical conclusion. I think Rana's case is also exemplary because it's an example that if an employer feels that the employee is engaging in this kind of conduct, he is sacking him to prove a point and to lead by conduct. So I think that we have to understand that whether it is even a Kareena Kapoor and a Saif Ali Khan who are trolled for their child's name and they just choose to ignore it, or it is somebody more seriously like what happened to Smriti Irani, where there were so many things which should have been brought to the logical conclusion. Our only appeal is use positive language whilst you're trying to explain a viewpoint. You can continue to have a dramatic viewpoint which is a different ideology, but I don't think that you can censor an online platform which engages in opinions which could be absolutely contrarian to your opinion.
Well,
the
I
only
don't think anyone's calling for that.
is when it comes to
you
a
know,
woman's...
I think censorship is out of the question.
The only non-negotiable is when it comes to a woman's security, or for that matter, her physical attributes or any condescending language when it comes to women's
Well, I want to ask
dignity.
Amit Sibal as a lawyer, when Shaina says that women have the option of complaining to the police and lodging complaints and so on. Is it really as simple as that in this country?
The laws do exist. The Information Technology Act specifically provides for sexual harassment and sexual abuse that happens online as a punishable offense. In fact, under 67A, it's a non-bailable offense. But you have to go and you have to file a complaint, you have to pursue a case, possibly for years, and it involves time, expense. When somebody abuses you online, there's always another option that you have. And the reason you have that option is that the online digital platform allows people to reach an unprecedented number of people without them wanting to be reached. That's what digital platform allows. Because it allows for that, you're faced with a barrage possibly of communications. A person who sends you such a communication should be prepared for the consequence, like we've seen in this case with Rana, that she then exposes that person online. A person who faces such a complaint can either file a communication, can either file a complaint with the police, or they can go online and expose that person. Now, if they expose that person, and the freedom of speech that our country allows brings pressure to bear, I can imagine that in an appropriate situation, we can force a company even in India to sack such an employee. Now, this has happened in the UAE, possibly not because of online consequences, but because of the laws that the UAE has. Here, the laws exist, but cases take a long time and they may not be as effective in the enforcement. But here we have the weapon of freedom of speech, which we need to use in response to abuse in this fashion, such that a company is shamed into being forced to sack such a person. I'm not
and
speaking...
that will probably be faster and more effective
and I'm
than
not
going to the
speaking
courts.
about, we do have laws, sexual harassment at the workplace is subject of specific laws and all of that. Supreme Court has stepped in to impose guidelines for women at the workplace and so on. It all exists, but it's more in the rule than in the observance.
I think that's a very important point. Swati, you know what he's saying, do you think that can be done? I mean, tomorrow if you are hurtled with vile abuse and you feel the need to act on that, would you say that you would exercise that option to try and report that person to his employer or her employer?
Well, I don't know, because I've taken the legal route and that really hasn't worked. So I don't know. And Shaina was saying that lead by example, which brings us back to the original question that, you know, when you say that a company is leading by example, the Prime Minister of the BJP is also leading by example. Forget about what journalists face. Let's talk about death threats, communal incitement and rape threats. Now, why should any leader or why should any political party encourage this? And if, you know, if this man comes back and the Indian government does not act, if the Indian government does not act against him, then what kind of example are we setting?